I'm David Mason, the Director of Public Health for the town of Sandwich, and we are doing public service announcement number 15 today. We have Heather Hopper with us today, who is the Assistant Town Administrator, and we have Chief Burke here, and we will start with an update on today's coronavirus status.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning. We started operational period number 9 this week. The current numbers are 6 positive, 55 recovered, and no more hospitalized, which is good news across the board. The numbers are down, the recoveries are increasing, and we have nobody in the hospital. An update on Cape Heritage, we had a couple of staff retested by the National Guard. They were concerned about the integrity of the test kit. They were retested along with 2 residents, and they came back negative. So we only have 3 positives at the nursing home, which are employees that are well on their way to recovery, and no patients there.
Super. So the town of Sandwich is doing a great job as far as with their social distancing, and keep in mind that Governor Baker has put in an order that is to be implemented on Wednesday for facial coverings in public areas. Before we start with Heather, just a quick note. The health department's been receiving a lot of calls regarding concerns at the grocery stores and their occupancy level. The health department has been monitoring that regularly, and they are compliant with their required occupancy load. We do appreciate the calls, but we are aware of the situation, and we are monitoring that regularly, and they have been compliant. So today we have Heather Hopper, as I mentioned. Not only is she the Assistant Town Administrator, she is the Public Information Officer for the town. And in this crisis, she was brought in that position, trained for that position. And Heather, you've served as the town's Public Information Officer and have been doing an incredible job. So a little round of applause for Heather on her. Turn off the applause. Thank you. What is the role of the information officer, and how do you prepare for the PSAs and press releases? Because there's a lot of information with a lot of different departments that you have to put together. So how do you prepare those?
So I think the role really is to listen to the communications in the EOC with the command team, to hear what the issues of the day are, as well as the issues leading up into the next maybe 1 to 2 week time frame, and to work with the team to identify the most important salient points for the public. So I'd say the most important role really is the listening part, and then the communication is what are those most important pieces and what's most important for the public to know, how to respond, and what they can do to support both the community public health as well as the team.
So the team meets every morning, 9 o'clock. How are those communication decisions made? We have issues. We see them on the horizon. What's a typical scenario and how those decisions made?
So they're all made as a team. We're communicating every day in those team meetings, as well as outside of those as needed. So as issues arise as important items for communication, we talk about those. And I can recall a couple of incidences where, I felt fairly strongly that we should be out in the public on those. And I think early on we were all sort of a little reluctant to start to reveal information. It felt like personal information. It felt a little scary. How do we communicate that with the public? And I think the team decided as a team early on we were going to be as transparent as we can be, provide information before it gets released by another venue, not well in advance, not to be in a scoop mode, but to be in a mode of providing legitimate information from those people that have it, starting from the first COVID case. We had a very long conversation, and I think it was a challenging one. Is it appropriate for us to be reporting that? And ultimately, we decided that it was appropriate for the town to report that information. And I think that's led to a really positive engagement process, both from the team, a great group of real tremendous leaders on the COVID command team, but our ability to make good judgments about how to get information out early on rather than waiting to react. And that, I think, has been a real positive for the community.
And you've been excellent because you've been very adamant about getting ahead of the story also. And in getting ahead of the story and getting information out, what venues do you use to get information out? Because we've received calls from people saying they're not finding information. So what venues do you use?
So we use primarily, the place people should always go to is the town website, and all the information will be up on the slide here. The website, everything gets posted there, so if you want information about something that's happened in the past, or you want to make sure you have the most up-to-date information, everything goes up onto the town website, and there's a COVID button. It's a red button, it's at the top of the page. You can always get what you need there. You know, it may not be organized in the way, had we anticipated to be involved in a pandemic, it may have been organized a little bit differently, but really everything is there. It also has a great system for alerting the community. We have both a town manager alert, and I encourage people to go onto the website, sign up for Notify Me, and then you'll get every public information release we send out through an email to those folks that have signed up on our website, both emergency alerts and town manager alerts. We've been slowing down the emergency alerts. We're really in an operations mode now, so it's more standard information that's going out about how we're handling the response. And then, of course, we have Facebook, which has really become an important tool for the community, and we have a Twitter link as well. And I do have to acknowledge the Twitter link is not always connected the way it should be, but the Facebook feed as well as the town's website are the two best places to get information. We also have a community response line on the website. So if people have questions, and we've seen many of them, and they go right to the town manager's office and get distributed to key departments, we've been responding to those. So there's plenty of venues for folks to get information, but I'd say the website and Facebook have been the two strongest tools for communication.
And for those people who may not use Facebook or Twitter, there is that email. Again, that's, you know, if you want it directly sent to you, you can have that. So
it's always there.
okay. What's the most difficult part of this role?
I think the most difficult part of the role is dealing with the command team. I'm kidding, of course. They've been a really fantastic group of people to get to know. But really it has been determining when it is the right time to reveal information. I think the three most challenging have been, of course, the first case, the first death, maybe even Cape Heritage, knowing when to provide that information when we know that there are lots of families involved, and then perhaps our own testing protocol, because you want to be careful that you're sharing information that's responsible and timely, but you aren't getting ahead of communicating with families or employees. And so I think those have been the more delicate, but working all of those through with the command team, who have got both tremendous acumen and professionalism, but a wonderful sense of humor. I don't think there's any reluctance to lay something out that anyone's concerned about, and we talk it through, and at the end of the day, we all agree, and nothing goes out until everybody agrees.
Very good. As far as with this situation too, what can the community do to help? Because I know you speak regularly with Council on Aging and the public health nurse and you know, all the departments. So as far as, you know, what can the community do to help in this situation?
You know, it gets a little mundane to hear, but the most important things the community can do to help is to wear your facial covering when you need to, when you can't provide the adequate social distancing, to stay at home if you can, to be safe. But also, if you have needs, reach out. Reach out to the Council on Aging. Even if you're not a senior, that is our helpline for the community. The last thing we want to hear is someone that has had serious, whether it's medical or food insecurity, emotional insecurity, any of those issues. If you have needs, reach out. We have a great system to communicate that out and get it out to service providers that may be able to help you. And I don't think that there's a case that we haven't been able to respond to. And if we haven't, let us know and we'll do our best to respond. But it's when you hear that there's someone that's been living without or living with an insecurity of some kind for a period of time, knowing that there is a resource base here, I think that's what the community can do. And of course, you know, look after your neighbors, look out for your own family. Those are the things that we can continue to do, is just to be good citizens.
It's always good to reiterate that, just to put that reminder in people's heads. So the next thing is with the governor's order extended to May 18th, we're trying to figure out how to open up again, how to prepare to return to operations for the town. As far as what is going on with that, what type of work are you involved in with that at this point?
Well, I certainly have to give credit to Chief Burke for his initial approach to developing a return to operations platform using the incident command system. And that has been really the backbone of everything that we're doing, is responding as part of an incident command. So we're able to take that and then just build some templates for all of the departments to start to think about the return to operations. And we've, of course, been looking at this for 3 weeks, anticipating the possibility that we'd have some operations returning today, as early as today. But each department is really taking a look through, and I think I've got a slide, I do, about what we're talking about. And of course, the first are, anticipating both public and employee safety. So it's both the service side of what we do in the community, as well as protecting the employees who are providing that service. We've had many operations ongoing. Of course, the command team has continued to operate, the facilities department, the Department of Public Works. So we've learned a lot from them about how they've continued to operate, about the do's and don'ts and some of the challenges they've confronted. We're also planning for PPE, which is one of my main concerns, is to try and ensure that we have a supply of just basic PPE, whether it's masks or gloves, for the hopeful return to operations for some of our seasonal operations, to ensure that there's enough quantity there to support, protect the staff and protect the public. We're thinking about staffing and rotational schedules, and you've heard this across the Commonwealth, to ensure that we have healthy staff to serve the public. That some folks may continue to work from home for an extended period of time or in rotational shifts, so that our full staffing complement might not be in place as of the day of opening, but we'll begin to move towards that as we have all of the things that we know that are necessary to return to full operations, like the contact tracing and the testing that we know nationally that we need. And I mentioned testing may be part of our protocol for return to operations. Lucky enough to do that for our public safety and essential employees now, hoping that that's something that becomes available for all employees. We're looking at the physical modifications, and I just talked again with our facilities coordinator, Brian Schlegel, who has been fantastic in getting us in the remote operations mode, as well as providing really terrific sanitation procedures across the town. He'll be looking at physical modifications from everything from the service desk for our executive assistant in town hall, to how do you ensure the beach gates have appropriate protection from the public coming in if and when those open up again in the future, for paid parking. And then, of course, there's the regular sanitation that we've done a good job with, but as you expand operations, that will become more critical. And then lastly, it's the communications. We're really looking internally at how to communicate, ensuring that the staff that are involved in return to operations have a chance to weigh in on what their concerns are in terms of their own safety, and then we'll be communicating that out to the public.
What town services will be more difficult to address with social distancing?
Certainly the town services that support large groups of individuals, and without a doubt, hands down, recreation is the most difficult. I have their return to operations plan. This is single-sided for all of their programs. They have been working on this since the day we closed, thinking about how to return to operations. And the key, I think they have a terrific handle on how they might return to operations, but the key is going to be what we hear from the Commonwealth in terms of the scheduling, what they are allowed to offer. We now have some guidance from the CDC, which is going to give us a good framework to start to plan for that. But really knowing what the state will allow will give us a lot more guidance. But they've been really thoughtful about things like kayaking programs. Can we do that? Can we provide the social distancing and still provide good community services? They're also thinking, and we heard Guy talk about this when he was here, if we really can't provide programs, can we do things like camp in a box, where you might get an archery set and some games and some things that you can do in small groups with your own family. So very thoughtful, hardworking people getting ready to provide what we hope will be a summer's worth of socially distanced, appropriately safe programs for the community. But that's all really out of our hands for the next couple of weeks.
It is, and I know that the Recreation Department and the Director, Guy, have been, they're very conscious of the role that camps serve as recreation for the kids, but at the same time during the summer months to allow parents to get back to work, to be at work. And it's even more challenging now with understanding how do we open up everything, the economy, getting parents back to work, and at the same time providing the means for where to place their kids in a camp program. So they're being very thoughtful about that.
Yeah, and clearly there'll be families who are eager to participate, as long as the appropriate protocols are in place, but there'll be families that simply don't feel comfortable placing their kids in programs this summer. And so they're aware that the numbers may be different and the expectations may change.
So with that, you have high school age sons. How are they handling this whole situation? Because you have one that graduates this year, right?
I have a senior and a sophomore.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's his congratulations. I'm really a parent that thinks that it was his work and his life to get to where he is. I'd say the first couple of weeks were incredibly challenging, and I was really focused, at least in the first PSA. And, you know, as sterile as I think some of the communications that we put out are, they really are based on sometimes our personal experiences. So getting the schools in here early to talk about how you cope with this was important to me to hear from that. It was helpful for me to hear from the school counselors about how to talk with my kids and what to expect. And you know, I can't expect the Heather Harper boot camp to continue at home, that I need to relax expectations a little bit, and it's okay. Overall, I'd say I have two happy, healthy teenage boys. They're eating me out of house and home. You know, they're not delighted every day, but they're doing fine, and I think their future looks bright. My expectation is in the next year, when students return, whether it's off to college or back to their public school, private school programming, that the community will do their very best to provide them with an outstanding experience next year. And I think they believe that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, being optimistic, looking forward to the small things in your household's been a big difference. And of course, you forget that I have a third teenage boy who is my husband. And
wow.
That one alone.
And he agrees. So there's been a lot of fun in the house as well. There's been birdhouse building, and they've been building all kinds of things around the house, which has been fun to see too.
He does like our movies and taste in movies, though.
He has very similar taste to the command team in movies. Yeah.
Very good. So with wrapping this up, just a quick question as we move on here and we progress and we move forward to openings. Would you be Dave Mason's press agent as we move forward in this, depending where this goes?
I think I'm already Dave Mason's press agent, yes, and you did not wear your ascot today, which is also a facial covering.
Well, I appreciate your critique.
Thursday.
I appreciate your critique of what I should wear for these. So, as far as Chief Burke, do you have anything else you want to add today?
No, I think it's important people understand the return to government operational discussion started, and Heather alluded to this in the rec department 2 months ago. Groups have been working towards this, and that's one of our important objectives right now. We've mentioned that continuously, and her and Bud are doing a great job in getting us back on track.
Yep. And so, Heather, thank you very much for today. Thank you for the great job you're doing, the information you put out there, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you for
I
having
think
me.
the community does also. So thank you very much. So let's remember, Governor Baker put it in order for facial coverings. That's to start this Wednesday. It's not about taking away your rights. It's about being considerate to other people. So have a good day and be safe.